Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of Atypical Art Podcast. I'm Christy Olson, and today with me I have my lifelong friend and lovely musician, Katie Hackett. So if you
Hi.
can give yourself a little introduction.
My name is Katie Hackett. I'm 29. I'm a musician right outside of Philadelphia. I was born in this area, still currently live here after moving around some bit.
Awesome. Very cool. I know that your whole family is kind of musically talented, but when did you start making music?
I started writing songs when I was probably around 17 or 18. But I did stuff with music outside of writing, for throughout my childhood and high school and stuff. I was always involved with music, but I kind of started being more creative once I got out of high school. Around age 18.
Nice. Awesome. Did you take classes, or were you trained for singing or any of your instruments, or did you kind of just pick it up?
So for piano, which is my main instrument, I did take lessons, but I ended up quitting because I didn't like it when I was really young, probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the stuff, a lot of my instruments that I play is just self-taught. I play a lot by ear.
That's awesome.
Including piano. So I do have some foundational stuff, but a lot of my skills with that are pretty self-taught. And then I did take I was classically trained through private voice lessons.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was a big question I had, because it's just, I think that that's so interesting, voice lessons and stuff like that. I am not musically talented at all. I can't even read music or anything. I totally skipped out on that in school. But what are all the instruments that you play?
So my main instrument is piano. I play a bit of guitar, and actually a lot of my newer songs are written more on guitar. I've kind of shied away from writing on piano. And then I play a little bit of banjo. I've played, I don't really play ukulele, but I've kind of fucked around with it, mostly for kind of adding different textures when I'm recording.
Yeah, I bought a guitar and a ukulele hoping that I would learn, and never did. So but what kind of inspired you or motivated you when you were growing up to stick with music and stuff like that?
Well, I grew up really surrounded by church music, hymns and stuff. So I think that was probably hymns were really my jam for a long time. And that was kind of the only thing that I was really exposed to, besides a couple bands that my dad really liked. So that was for sure pretty foundational for me, I think. And then I started to sort of branch out and get more into exploring things that I really liked personally, instead of just what was kind of played in my house growing up. And my parents, well, my dad in particular, being a musician, I think for sure was kind of gave me that desire. Yeah.
Did he show you how to do stuff, or did you kind of just watch how because you guys had a whole recording thing down in the basement, right?
Yeah, he had a studio set up in his basement. And then he kind of let me use that. I used to record a lot on his songs. So I kind of got my intro to recording my voice through that, and it was a really old school setup, so I had to get everything on one take every time, which was really intense. But now I feel I'm kind of good at just doing things one time, and then a weird skill that I feel I cultivated through that. So it's kind of good, I guess, that I had to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, somewhere at my parents' house in the attic, I'm sure we have all the old CDs and cassettes and everything. I'm sure. Awesome. But has your, I mean, I guess it kind of did your taste in music, has that changed from like over the years?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of like changed and then gone back, because I used to like a lot of just really like gritty stuff, like I'm trying to think of like some bands that I was really in. Like I mean, I always loved like every like indie kid. I loved Neutral Milk Hotel. So that was like my first like favorite band, and then I sort of like went like I liked listening to classical music, and I still really like that because a lot of my vocal training and stuff was like centered in classical. And then yeah, I still feel like I like similar bands and kind of like post rock type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So your favorite type of music is like indie? Is that like a broad genre, and then are there like more specific ones inside of that, or is it kind of like
Yeah.
an all-encompassing thing?
Yeah, I feel like indie music is like so many different kinds of music. So that's a pretty like broad genre in my opinion. Yeah, I always get like uh I for some reason, like when I try to talk about my favorite bands, I feel like I have a ton of favorite bands. So I'm always like, wait, what do I like?
I like so many different genres, and it kind of just depends on my mood. Like I go through phases and I'll listen to one band like nonstop for like 2 months, and then I'll be like, I don't really ever want to listen to them again just because
Oh
I
yeah,
like overplay it. But
yeah.
what are like the characteristics that like you like the most about indie music?
Well, some of my favorite bands definitely have similar themes that I think that I write about as well. Just like a lot of like sifting through religious backgrounds and like mental health and things like that. I feel like that's a really big theme in my music. So like bands like Frightened Rabbit, like I love that band so much. And like Frightened Rabbit has like helped me through a lot of things and inspired me in a lot of ways. And a lot of them have like a really heavy like uh mood too in their songs. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about your band. We'll start there and then we'll go more into your independent stuff, but it's called the Lunar Year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when did
Yeah.
that get started?
The Lunar Year started probably like 4 or 5 years ago. Um, I had been writing under a different name, and then I changed it to the Lunar Year. And it's always sort of been like me writing, and then like kind of like I sort of like circulate band members in and out, like depending on their availability or like needs. So yeah, but I've always been like, that's always been my like performance project. And sometimes I play solo or just with like another person. Sometimes I play with a full band with like 5 people. So it just kind of depends on like the show and what I'm kind of going for.
What's your favorite song from the Lunar Year?
Oh, I really like my song Herodias. I think that's like my most consistently played song, which is also like the first album. That's what the title is.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that song because one, I feel like it's like one of my most like honest songs and most well written. And two, it kind of lends itself to a lot of interpretation, both by the listener and just like how I want it to be like portrayed on stage. So I've done that song a cappella before. I've done it with just like a guitar. And I've made it also like I've done it with like a saxophone too. Like I've just done it like different ways. So it
That's
just
awesome.
yeah, I really like that song. It's always fun like how I can just like do it different ways on when I'm performing.
Yeah, that's really cool. What's your process for writing your music?
Uh, lately it's been a lot of me like sitting outside and writing and like in a notebook, like journaling. And I actually have been writing more stuff just sort of in my head and then trying to play it out once the song is finished.
Okay.
Which is interesting because in the past I haven't really done that. With my solo stuff, I recorded a lot of the instrumentation first, and then I would listen through and then sort of try to see what kind of emotions it evoked, and then I would write based on that. My first album was just like, I feel like that was like the first time I really was just like getting all of my ideas out there. So it just like, I don't know. There's a lot of like really long songs like on my first stuff. So that was just like me just like throwing up on my keyboard.
Yeah. That's how you gotta do it sometimes. So
Yeah.
get it all out there. Then you can refine the process as you go.
Yeah.
So with the band, what do you think, in your opinion, was like the best show you ever played and why?
The best show that I ever played. I always think back to this show that I played at a venue called Boot and Saddle in Philly. And I think it was like for a release show. And I had been living out west and came back, and I had like kind of barely rehearsed with my band.
Oh, no.
Because one of my guitarists was like a new parent, and it was kind of like a wild time for him, and I didn't have much time to like I basically like came back to town for a little bit, and like we only had like one rehearsal or something.
Oh my God.
So it was like very nerve-wracking, especially because it was our record release show, but we just ended up like being so in sync, and there was a really great turnout, and the bands we played with were really fun. And yeah, like it was just really, really good energy. We brought like glow sticks and stuff for like to like hand out at the show. It was really fun. So that's probably one of my favorites for sure.
Was it like a concert hall, or what was the venue like?
It's sort of like it's like a bar with a venue room in the back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We do those here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like decent size. It's not too big. Like there are a couple venues in Philly that are like huge, but that's probably like middle of the road, I would say.
Awesome. So, that's great though.
Yeah, it was fun.
I have written down, what was your favorite type of performance? Like, I know my mom and I came and saw you at one of Jesse's art shows in that cute little coffee shop.
Yeah.
You guys have done some festival stuff too, right? So what's your favorite? Do you like the more intimate or like more on stage kind of stuff?
It's hard to say because I feel like I've had some performances where it's just been me playing, and I really loved those. But then there are other times when I do that and I just like hate it. I don't prefer to like, in general, I'm a little burnout on playing solo right now because I've been doing it. I did it for like a really long time. And so that helped me gain confidence. But I think that my favorite type of shows are with like a band for sure. And I just feel like it just like is very cool to have this feeling of like we're all doing this artistic thing together, and we're all just like connecting with each other on stage, and then also connecting with people that are just in the crowd watching us. It's just a very cool feeling. Like, and I don't think that I've like experienced a lot of things like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. As someone who mostly works with visual artists, it's very interesting for me to see like, because like unless you do a collaboration, which generally for me anyway isn't that fun, like it's like it's hard to have different visions for things. I can imagine like getting up there and like doing it with a whole group of people. I think that's really cool.
It's wild. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Do you guys write any of the songs together, or is that mostly you and then you just kind of bring people in that would fit the best?
Yeah, as far as like the actual songs, and like lyrics and stuff like that and melodies, I typically just do that. And then, but I don't write like instrumental parts for people, unless they're like playing. I mean, there are a couple songs that I've recorded myself and I've written like guitar parts for.
Mhm.
So usually like my guitarist will like sometimes take example from like he'll kind of listen to the like what I've recorded and maybe do like an interpretation of that. But I don't really like writing parts for other people. I like being like creative all together. I think that that's where like the group writing comes in, where we're all trying to find like a sound that is going to be like very pleasant to listen to. And so yeah.
Is it ever hard, like working with different people? Like if you guys aren't like getting the same like vibe from a song?
There have definitely been some hard times like that, but I feel like in general, I have a good amount of trust built up with the band members that I work with, that I haven't run into too many problems with that. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What is your proudest moment or achievement with the band? I saw on your Spotify bio, I think it was, that you guys had a TV appearance and you were on the radio. Tell me a little bit about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Probably one of my proudest, my proudest moment in like me doing music is just some placements that I've had. So I like have a publishing company that I've worked with, and they have placed one of my songs on a couple TV shows,
Oh my
which has
God,
been
that's
really
awesome.
fun. Yeah, that's been really cool. One time it was like 10 seconds of like a piano part in my song, so it wasn't even like, oh my God, that's me. Like, but I know it's me, so it's pretty cool.
That's
The other
awesome.
ones were a little more obvious, but yeah, I would say that's probably, I felt like really successful when that happened, even though it's just like a little bit of like success, I guess.
That's awesome though. Can you say what show it was or no?
Yeah, it was Teen Mom on MTV.
Oh my God, that's so cool. No, that's
Yeah.
great. What are your hopes for the future with the band?
Well, I definitely had some plans before the virus stuff happened, so that's a little up in the air, I would say.
Oh,
But currently, I'm working on a set of songs that are very like concepty, and I really am like in love with them. It's taken me a long time to write them, and I'm like frequently getting frustrated with them. But um, I'm hoping that once I can work with my band again in person, that we can put together some really good arrangements for that.
right. That'd be awesome. I feel like it's a lot easier for other people to work online together.
Yeah.
Anna, my younger sister, is in an orchestra for her high school, and I was like, well, you guys should try to play on Zoom or something. And she's like, that's not how it works. Like, that's not.
It's No, it's very hard to do that. I think there's a way to like, I haven't figured it out, but I think that like there's a way to kind of coordinate that. But
I feel like everyone would have to have mics and stuff like that because I know her computer is like not good enough for all that.
yeah, you'd have to
Um,
have a pretty good setup.
yeah, and I don't think the high school orchestra really does. No offense, guys. um, and then talking more about your solo stuff, how does it differ from your band stuff?
Yeah, so my solo stuff it's kind of interesting. I really wanted um, to release certain songs on my like Katie Bird, like under my Katie Bird name, because I felt that they were more expressive of me as an individual. And they also didn't really, in my opinion, like, they seemed different than my other like Lunar Year stuff. Not like I didn't really intend for that to happen, but I think just because of the time in my life that I was writing those songs that I released under my solo name, they just like kind of turned out to be a different vibe. So I've only performed as Katie Bird like once or twice. I still like frequently perform under the Lunar Year. And I think I prefer that because it's more recognizable to people. And I just like, I always think of that as being like my band. And this is more just like, I'll just put this song out under this name just because I want it out, but I don't really like want to perform it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you find it easier to write when it's for Katie Bird because that's like all you, or do you like working with your band more?
I would say that, I think they're both different. Like, I feel like I have more of a vision for when I'm writing for my band than I do for myself. As far as like what the arrangements are. And I think that like it's easier for me to think ahead as far as like figuring out like the structure of a song when I'm writing for the Lunar Year. And then it kind of helps like pull the whole song together or pull a project together because I'm envisioning like, okay, like the guitars are going to do something like this probably. And then like this drum part is going to kind of come in like this around this part. With my solo stuff, I don't really have a plan. So I think it helps me like process my emotions maybe a little more because I'm not really thinking about it how it's going to be perceived. I just kind of write it out.
That's cool. Yeah, music is such a powerful like art form. Like it makes you feel things, like even if you don't know like the situation of the artist or whatever, like everybody's been moved by some sort of music, no matter what the genre or who wrote it. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
We're gonna pause for 2 seconds.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
All right. So how does your inspiration for your lyrics differ from between your band and your solo stuff?
I think that it depends on like what I'm going through at the time in my life. I definitely feel like with my older stuff that I wrote like years ago, at the time I felt like I had to be more veiled with my lyrics, which is really cool. And I think to some extent I do still do that, just like with the style that I write in. But now I definitely feel like I think that my songs are a little more like obviously feminist, which is interesting because some people don't really seem to like that too much. But I don't know. It doesn't really make sense to me, like why. I don't know. I've never really understood why people have. Why I know why people have a problem with that, but I guess it's just like I don't. At this point in my life, like these are the songs that are coming from my soul, so I feel like I can't not write about it. You know.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. Also, it's your art. Like you shouldn't feel like, even though it's music and like people enjoy it and you have like a following, like that doesn't mean you should change or write to please them. Like it's your therapy. Like you said, like it helped you get through things and stuff like that. And that's really important, I think, for any art form.
Yeah. And I think that like art is just naturally confrontational. So I think that I understand why to some people it's like seems abrasive or like maybe just not palatable for them. But I think that that's more of a reflection of like what's going on internally for the listener than my music. So I don't ever really feel like inclined to like change what I'm doing.
Good.
because people don't like it as much or something.
Right. No, definitely. Also, like, you don't have to listen. Like,
Exactly.
if you don't like it, don't. You don't
Yeah.
have to look at art. Like, you don't have to voice, like, I'm not saying don't voice your opinion. I'm just saying, like, that's somebody's, like, heart and soul in a song or in a painting or whatever. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just not for you. Like if you're like, I don't know, like a dude that has a problem with me, like not wanting you to objectify me, like while I'm singing, like, sorry, like maybe
don't,
you just shouldn't come to the show. I don't
yeah,
know.
just stay home. We don't want you there,
Yeah, seriously.
honestly. It's really hard. I think especially during, like, it's always been hard, but growing up and like seeing certain things and like being exposed to more, because like I was never exposed to like not any, but I wasn't exposed to the kind of art that I like now. I didn't see any of that growing up, basically, or in high school. Even like college was when I started to like see more like weird art, and I kind of started listening to different music and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
really opened my eyes to like my own kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've talked about before how high school and even college was very restricting, even though like you were taking all these art classes or whatever, and they were supposed to be like these creative opportunities. They were all very like gridded and black and white. And if you don't do things like this, then you're not good.
Yeah.
Which I think is the most ridiculous thing to ever say. Like, oh, that's not good. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's the most vague, stupid thing I've ever heard, I think.
I know. I saw some like really famous musician tweet recently about quarantine, and they were like, I can't believe like there's going to be like so much shitty art made during this. And I was like, wow, like that's like a really screwed up thing to say. Like, what does that mean, shitty art? Like, it's art. I don't know. Like, so you don't like it? Like, I don't know. The person that made it liked it, and
Right.
it's an expression of who they are. So
yeah.
not
I
shitty.
encourage anybody, like, even if you think it's shitty, like, I don't like half the stuff I make, but it makes me feel good to make it and to put it out there instead of stockpiling it in my bedroom. Like,
For
and
sure.
that's what I've done my whole life, was just kind of, I'd make stuff where I was like, oh, it's not good. So I just like put it away. And like, no, in hindsight, it wasn't good. I don't even think it was good, but like,
Yeah.
I was doing it. And that's like the main thing. Like, each piece is going to open your eyes to show you either, oh, I like that, that's cool, or oh, that didn't work out how I thought it would. And that's like, there's such a beauty in the process of everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I love talking to all different artists and seeing like what their process is, how they do things. And I find it really interesting when people don't have like any emotional backing to it, because that like doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't get how you could I just thought to make this thing. I was like, I'm always either angry or sad when I'm making something. So
That's exactly how I am too.
So
but it's interesting how everybody's different with that kind of stuff. Like some people like are really, really happy, I guess, like if I had to like find a word to describe, I feel like that's very elementary to be like, this is super happy, but like, because there's such a big spectrum. But I tend to like write stuff when I'm feeling more introspective and I guess like sad or something, or like, but I just think of it as like processing all the weird stuff that has happened in my life.
Yeah.
But then other people, they don't write like that, but I would still say, yeah, that's art, because like you made it. It's an expression of yourself. So yeah, it's artistic.
There was this line from this song, and it was, artists are better when they're bummed. And I heard that, and it just made me laugh so hard, because I was like, yeah, like for me anyway, I love going to, Alex and I share a studio, and when I go with him and he's working, he'll play his music really loud, and I'll just kind of like clean up or like label things or do like dumb stuff. But when I'm there by myself, I put on like my angry music, and it's really loud, and people will come down and ask me to turn it down, and I'll just cry and paint, and it's like, I love it. I feel like it's
Yeah.
better than a therapy session at the end, like go to therapy and stuff. But like that for me is like so powerful and so moving. And I just feel like a weight lifted off of me, like
Yeah.
when that's all done. And if I like the piece or not, doesn't matter. Like I just feel better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's totally therapeutic. I mean, there was a time in my life where I was so restricted with how much I could express my emotions that the only way that I could do it was through music, because my partner at the time like literally didn't know what I was talking about. So I could like use music as a way to like process what I was going through in this like unhealthy relationship. And it was like really cool that I was able to do that. I mean, yeah, that's probably like a big part of the reason why I started writing, like, was just because I had to get it out some way, you know, and that was like my therapy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't really write poetry or anything, but I've always kept like little journals to like write things down. And like I do it a lot when I don't feel like telling people like exactly what I'm feeling. I just need to like get it out of my system.
Yeah.
And I find that the more I talk about it with people, the more people I know actually do it. And I always thought it was like a weird thing, like growing up, like dear diary, like just like I felt like awkward about it, even though no one knew.
Yeah.
But it's a tool that a lot of people use, like writers, poets, musicians, or otherwise. And I think that that's an awesome, like super simple solution to like dealing with your emotions.
Yeah. It's interesting too, like just how, like, I don't know. I think that I've really seen myself like uh manifesting my like internal turmoil in different ways while I'm like kind of stuck in the house. Like I used to be just strictly like I write music, like I write words with music, but I recently it's been a little more difficult to write like instrumental stuff to go along with the words. And at certain points during this time I've like felt disappointed by that, like maybe I've like lost it or something. But I'm kind of liking it now because I think it's just a different way for me to get everything out and to express myself. So I've just been like I said, like journaling a lot and just writing like little passages that are like, you know, 4 or 5 lines long. Sometimes there's like a couple pages, like, and it's similar to like how I write my songs, but it's cool because um it's not really bound by like the like it doesn't have to fit into music. So I actually feel a little more like I can express myself a little better and like more differently because of that. So it's been pretty cool.
Spoken word, like poetry, I don't know if you'd call it poetry, but it's like basically like the same thing, but people just like, you know, say it out loud. And I think that those are some of the most powerful like things, like I don't even know what to call them, like things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
They're so raw, and like I feel like sometimes maybe putting music to things is like adding another layer that might take away from like your message or what you're trying to say, just because you're trying to like make it sound good or like groovy or whatever.
Yeah. I agree.
But what is some of your advice for young musicians?
I think that my best advice would be like try not to fall into the trap of like having to have a certain like background in music to be a legitimate musician. Um, I think that I have dealt with a lot of insecurities because I didn't go to college for music, and yet I consider myself a musician.
Absolutely.
And I'm mostly self-taught besides like stuff with voice. But I didn't really have opportunity to do that. And my life took a really different path than a lot of my other like friends and colleagues in the music world. And I think that, not to say that it's bad, because I think it's great too. I just think that either one is fine. And I don't think that you have to have any sort of formal education to be a legitimate musician, like legitimate, like art is art, and it's like we've been talking about this whole time, it's an expression of yourself. And um I just think that, like, I personally, it's been like a journey, like thinking that I don't measure up because I don't have this like really formal training. And I talk to my partner about this frequently. Like, I think we talked about it like last week. I just like, sometimes I see like these musicians that I really respect, and they went to Temple, or they went to like wherever, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't go, like I suck. But I don't,
Wow.
that doesn't mean that I suck, just because I had a different path than they do, and it doesn't mean that they suck because they like went to college.
Right.
So I think that that would probably be my biggest form of advice, to just not let that pull you down.
Right. You don't have to have any sort of background to make art. And I was actually a business major, and I minored in photography, and which I still do some photography, but it's more mixed media than anything. And I had a really rough go throughout high school and college with not only teachers but students, like kind of looking down at me because I wasn't an art major, and I was bombarded with, why aren't you an art major? Like all
Yeah.
throughout. And it really made me feel like shit because I wasn't, and that was my plan all along, to be an art major. But now, a year ago, like 2 days ago, I graduated, and I don't see a whole lot of my colleagues or people I graduated with still making art. And it's not a competition, it comes in waves, but it's like a
Yeah.
lot of the people I know weren't trained in art in any way. They just do it. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a trap, to think that you need to have any sort of training. Like,
Yeah.
not for nothing, but the internet is a very wonderful resource, and you can
For
go
sure.
online and someone will teach you how to play guitar, how to play ukulele, how to sing, how to, whatever.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that people really should do that, and also just not be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Try it. If you suck, okay, either decide that's not your thing or try to learn more,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. For sure. I totally agree. Yeah. It's a trap that I get myself into. And I also realized that that line of thinking, that I don't measure up because I don't have like formal training as a musician. It sometimes like sort of squashes my creativity, because
Absolutely.
it makes me feel inadequate, and then I don't want to do it anymore. And it's like it's definitely like a battle that I fight in my head. And it's unfortunate, because I think that comes from, I don't really know where it comes from. I mean, because a lot of the musicians that I'm like buddies with, I mean, they don't care that I didn't go to college with them, like, because they're cool, like they just were in the same boat. But I think that there are some people that, like, it, music has been taken, and it's been like, you know it's like you have to pay for it, when it should just exist, in my
Yes.
opinion. And I think it's amazing that we can have careers and make money from it, but also I think that to some extent, like, that can really make it more of like a business than like an expression. And so I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts about it. But
No, that's great. I tell a lot of people, like, because some of my art is more like, if you know what it's about. If not, you just think it's like kind of weird or whatever. But like, a lot of people ask me like, oh, are you selling it? And I'm like, yeah, like, if somebody wants, like, oh, it's over here, me face, me crying, like hanging up in their house, you're a weirdo, and sure, like, and if people like it, cool. If you don't, I don't care. I like my crying face in my house, like, it's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I definitely think that you can't let that squash your creativity, and just don't care so much about what other people think, because you're actually having a single coming out, like, soon.
That's
Like,
true. Yeah.
when?
like May 29th.
Like really soon.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. That's so exciting.
It's really cool. So this is a song that I wrote like 2 years ago, I think, or more maybe. I started the song a long time ago. It was actually the first song that I wrote after my first album, and it's like one of the last ones that I have been able to, like, I just haven't released it. I don't know why. It's been done, it's been recorded and mastered. Like, I haven't wanted to do it. So it's actually very like cheerful sounding. It's called Chime. And I mean, I feel like even that word is like very like, it's like, oh, chime, like a wind chime or something. And that's like it's funny because like I don't necessarily think it's like an incredibly cheerful song, because it's basically talking about how like everything around you can be really perfect looking. Like you can live in a really beautiful like area where there's like these beautiful trees and like beautiful animals, and it's just like serene and like just picture perfect, but your life can still feel like it's in shambles. And I wrote it because I realized that just because I change my surroundings, it doesn't mean that's going to change what's going on in my head and what's going on in my relationships. So it's sort of like it's definitely a song of like realizing like, oh, why am I still like feeling so fucked up? Even though everything looks really cool around me, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm happy. I'm really excited to release it, and I've done like a couple. I'll have to send it to you. I'll send you like an early copy because I've had like a couple early copies, and it seems to be like doing okay so far. But either way, I feel really good about releasing it, even if no one likes it, because I just finally feel good about putting it out. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, thank you.
How long does it usually take to write a song? Like, what's the timeline, or is it kind of different for each piece?
I think it's different. For that one, like I did a lot of the instrumentation myself. Like the only thing that I didn't record myself was like drums and violin, and then like one person's vocal. But like I feel really proud of this song because I took a lot of time to just like figure out the arrangements myself.
Wow.
And then with other songs though, it doesn't, like sometimes I'll write a song and like the song that I got placed on TV, I wrote that song in like 10 minutes. I thought it was going to be like not good, and then I was like, oh wow, why do people like this?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I think it's just different every time.
Yeah, I think that's crazy and awesome and beautiful, because that's how a lot of different art is made. Sometimes it can be something you think about for years and never do, and then sometimes it's just like, there it is.
Yeah,
All at once.
sure.
Well, that is awesome, and it was super, super nice talking with you. I miss you.
God, I know, I miss you too. We haven't actually like talked and seen each other in a while.
Like a long time.
I know.
But we can listen to all your stuff on Spotify under the Lunar Year and Katie Bird. And are there any other places to look for upcoming things or information?
I post a lot on Instagram. I don't really get on Facebook because it kind of stresses me out, and I'm just not my thing. I mean, you can check out my Twitter. I tweet a lot of bullshit that also doesn't have to do with my music a lot of times too. But most of my updates are like through Instagram, I would say.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I will put a link to that in the notes, and I will hopefully get to see you soon, and I hope that everything goes well for you.
Thanks so much for having me on this. This is
Absolutely.
a very cool thing that you do for artists, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.